I'm gonna, in just a minute, go through different types of parents and how that can have an impact on you and how that shows up in adulthood so that anybody listening might be able to start to go, oh, that was my experience. Oh, this is something I can heal. Wow. But before we do that, you have this quote that I love, and I'm going to share it, and then I'm going to give an example of something that happened just before you and I started this interview that I think might help people understand this quote, okay? So you say childhood trauma doesn't come back as a feeling, it comes back as a reaction. And I just experienced what you're talking about in this quote. And so I want to share it with everybody and then we can kind of unpack it. So I was so excited to talk to you because I admire you so much and I am so excited to share your wisdom and both how you do the work and how to meet yourself, these remarkable gifts to the world that you have published with my audience. And as we were doing the tech check to get everything hooked up, I know you know where this is going. We were having trouble because there was an echo happening. And I could start to, this is what hypervigilance is, everybody. So I'm in therapy, have been for years. I understand trauma. I'm working on healing my trauma. I'm like very fluid in this. And as this is happening, and all that's happening, everyone, is that Dr. Nicole can hear an echo in her ear. There's just a small tech thing going on. That's it. I can feel at a cellular level Jesse on our team starting to get nervous. I can feel the fluttering around. And I immediately, everybody, flip the switch in my nervous system. The buzz kicks on, right? So I have this reaction. Not like a feeling something's off, but now I am in my body reacting. And what my experience in that moment is a trauma response because I am in a situation where I'm feeling like Dr. Nicole is about to be upset with me because she is sitting there waiting for this to start. And there's an echo and we don't have it figured out. And now I'm also worried about Jessie because I can feel that she's nervous. And so in a nanosecond, everybody, because of patterns in childhood, flipped into that hypervigilance, mode. And the opportunity that will change your life that Dr. Nicole is teaching millions of people to do is to be aware when that happens. And instead of letting it hijack you, use the tools of breath and awareness and calming of self to quiet the mind and come back into the body and settle yourself, take in the view of what's actually happening. And so I just wanted to offer that because, I think that it's an ongoing process, but it's very liberating when you realize that experience that Mel Robbins just had as a 54-year-old woman is the exact same reaction that I would experience as an 8-year-old child.
I want to share. So I love that you are bringing this up and are sharing of your experience because I can maybe offer for other listeners another version of what could happen because I too had one. So I didn't sleep well. I haven't been sleeping well the past couple nights. I was sick several weeks ago. So actually I think you're the first podcast that I've done in several weeks. Me, little overachiever. Am I going to be the perfect presenter? I woke up this morning and if I'm perfectly honest, esteeming you, respecting you so much, wanting to show up for your audience. There was a little voice in my head that was thinking, oh God, how am I going to be today? What am I, I have a running joke with Lolly, my partner, who in the beginning of all of this, when people would ask to speak to me, even though, I had all of the information, I was putting it out, daily and on Instagram and all of the things. The second I had the opportunity to share it with someone on a podcast, I would look at her in sheer panic and go, well, what will I say? And she would go, well, Nicole, you'll share what you know. And again, for me, that illustrates this idea that unless I'm perfect, unless I'm, on my game, saying the words, as concisely as I need to, I'm not good enough. So if I'm being honest, as this morning was approaching and I was feeling tired and I was worried that I wasn't going to be good enough and the tech issues started happening, there was a little voice in my head that, like I've learned, when things get difficult, when I'm unsure of myself, I want to run away. I mean, there was a time before I entered my, awareness stage of my dark night of the soul. I actually, entertained leaving the practice that wasn't fulfilling me. I had all of these ideas of, I'm just going to run away to a foreign country. Maybe I'll just be a barista. I'm just going to leave things that are uncomfortable. So another version of me, childlike mode. I had moments this morning of like, oh, good. Now we're having tech issues. Maybe this
I'm
can't
out.
happen today. I could just here, Furcon just can't go. And I could literally disappear. So I wouldn't have to risk vulnerably showing up and being good enough just as I am today.
Amazing. And, I want you to hear that because the stuff that you haven't healed in your childhood is impacting, it's restricting, it's numbing, dampening the magic that your adult life has. And healing isn't like rainbows and unicorns. I mean, how do you know that you're healing, Dr. Nicole? Or you're not you're walking toward it. You're in the middle of it. You're in the soup of healing. What is that? How do you know?
I think a lot of times you feel uncomfortable. You begin to reconnect with the reality maybe of the dysregulation in your body, all of the deep rooted emotions that we might have gotten really good at repressing, keeping it out of our conscious awareness, at ignoring, knowing it's there, but distracting ourselves or channeling it into all these socially acceptable, avenues of achievement. A lot of times healing feels like we're going backward because we feel more uncomfortable. We feel more alive in not a comfortable way, right? There's a
Mm,
reason why we've created, maintained these habits for so long and they've become our familiar. So as we're beginning to do new things, we're immediately automatically going to challenge that subconscious that perceives threat in the unfamiliar, in the newness of it. And then the large majority of us are going to be met with everything that's been below the surface that
mm.
we've been so seamlessly good at distracting ourselves from. So a lot of times, as counterintuitive as it is, we know we're healing when we begin to feel worse. We feel more, everything. We feel life more.
I couldn't have said it better. I want to go through some of the parenting styles or parenting realities, I should say, and how that has impacted us. Okay. So, what is the impact of being raised by an emotionally unavailable parent?
So when we don't have someone who's able to attune to us emotionally, detect when we're upset, help soothe, bring us down. I mean, again, the reality of our nervous system is not only is it developing in childhood, we need another safe person to help us regulate. Like we were talking about earlier, the language we were using earlier was to bring us from overwhelmed, stressed, upset back into that calm, peaceful safety. So when someone's a parent is emotionally unavailable, that means the more consistently that they're emotionally unavailable, of course. And for a lot of us, that was our parents' own survival mode, disconnected, locked away on their own spaceship. That means then we're consistently overwhelmed by our own emotions.
Mm. I'm just on behalf of my husband who had a emotionally unavailable father. And that's right. Like just jam those emotions down. Jam those emotions down. Let's talk about the silent treatment. When you have a parent that gives you the silent treatment, how does that impact you?
Speaking from someone who has my mom, one of the major ways she dealt with that one moment in time that I shared where she threw and collapsed was one of I think the reason, honestly, Mel, that I remember it was because it was so out of her normal way to deal with anger, which was to give the silent treatment. I mean, the most recent time was actually when she found out I was gay. My sophomore year of college, she discovered it. I did not share it with them at that time. And she didn't speak to me for probably about a month and a half over a summer when I was living in the same home with her. So, oftentimes a silent treatment is used in reaction to an upset, often when the parent is angry with us. And now, the byproduct of that not only is lacking the emotional attunement or their availability, they're not present because they're not speaking to you in that moment, again, creating overwhelming sensations without the support of them, a lot of times it gives us this underlying, again, because we're so attuned, it gives us this underlying feeling that indirectly the statement is there was something inappropriate, wrong, shameful about how it is you were or what it is you did in that moment. And again, the more consistently that happens, the more likely it is some of us are going to internalize that idea that if I'm me, or if I express this aspect of me or this feeling, whatever it is that resulted in the silent treatment, we do a lot of times embed that deeper belief that that part of me is inappropriate, does cause people to leave. And a byproduct of that then often is not only the shame in that we just are embedded within us, deep rooted beliefs of how it is that we're not worthy, that we carry through us, making us less likely to show that aspect of ourself. A lot of times, and this was my experience, we then, anytime we perceive anyone as being distant, as giving us that curt
Yeah.
response, right? At not being available to us, at needing time, natural human time on their own, a lot of us very immediately, hypervigilantly go to that narrative of I must have upset them. I must have done something wrong. And maybe we can't tolerate it. Maybe we begin to chase, right, them to try and get their attention, because what it is activating that deep rooted abandonment, right? You either largely weren't present or you weren't present in these moments when I was doing something shameful. And now I'm just overlaying that filter into what's happening now. Even if, again, why they're curt, why they're short, why they're unavailable, it might not have anything to do with us at all. They might be distracted with work, right? They might just need
Right.
some time, like every human needs to be by themselves. It might not be anything in reaction to anything that we've done, but a lot of times we then struggle to tolerate distance, silence, and we always assume we've upset, we've wronged, we've hurt someone in those moments.
Yeah, I have a friend whose mom would not talk to her for months, and it was just targeted, and it was like an emotional guillotine. And I always thought of all emotional, quote, immaturity. The silent treatment was about as close to emotional as abuse, because you're basically withdrawing your love from somebody, saying what you did is bad enough for me that I am not going to give you the basics when it comes to attention.
You're not even a person.
You're
Right?
not
I've
even a person.
deleted you. I mean, there's moments where you could even be sharing the same room with someone who's just
Hmm.
speaking to everyone else and just not you. And that is gives you that implicit message of your human is not available. Like, I'm not available to this human. I've
Wow.
deleted you from my experience.
Um, how about being an introvert? How does that impact? How does the, like, if you're an introverted kid, how does that impact you growing up?
And again, very much describing my existence. So before I became very socially connected, one of the byproducts of being, so afraid and fearful of the outside world was that I was painfully shy, Mel, to the extent that if I was out with my mom and a neighbor who knew me, knew my family, would say hi to me, I would hide, tuck myself behind her leg. I
Oh,
would never utter a word to them. I would try to delete them from even seeing me. When my brother or sister had partners, people they were dating at the time, come over to the house, people that I would consistently get to know because they were dating them for however long, I would hide under the dining room table in hopes that they wouldn't see me. And again, all of that is a byproduct. While we are on a spectrum of energetic sensitivity, how much time we need alone away from other people, whether we feel, more energized or connected to other
mm-hmm.
people, when we have these extreme versions of being introvert, and a lot of times it was commented on in my family. Nicole's so secretive. Nicole's so shy. Nicole's so like withdrawn in these ways. It wasn't that was inherently who I was. For me, that was a protection, a way to keep myself safe when the outside world that I was taught was so scary was overwhelming and scaring to me. And the byproduct of that then was a initiation, a continuation of this habit that I've described earlier, which was that, when I'm withdrawn into myself, likely I'm not sharing with the world around me what's really going on, what I'm really thinking, what I'm really feeling. I'm not open to that connection with you in any moments or when I really need you to be.
What about when you're labeled the easy child?
I think a very common one again is when we shift into, very much was describing how I was sharing, my own journey earlier of trying to limit worry, trying to always show up as perfect, trying to, right, fill the needs of others in the family or limit again the stress that we're causing. And again, all this whole conversation leads to the messages that we're receiving. It doesn't have to be direct, right? It might be, we might not be directly told, oh, you're so easy, but we might be, attention might be shifted away from us when we're being difficult. We might have love withdrawn, or we're not validated in the same way, all sending that same implicit message of how I need to be. So in this case, easy, stress-free, maybe achieving, so that I could remain as connected as you're available to connect with me. And
So
then,
what
of
I'm
course, we
basic
continue this cycle
so what
through
I'm
life.
basically hearing is whether it was you're the golden child, you're the easy child, you're the mature one for your age, you're introverted. There's a lot of us that get this message that you must be a certain way in order to get the attention and the love that you need foundationally. So it becomes very transactional. You can't just be yourself. I got to play a role. And if I'm not playing that role, then there's a price to pay. Mom might stop talking to me. I might not get the love and attention that I need. And so that's where this starts to kick in. If it's not like life threatening, it certainly is emotionally threatening.
As I looked around, I kept almost telling myself, well, what is wrong with you, Nicole? Why aren't you, feeling good about yourself? Why aren't you feeling fulfilled? Why aren't you feeling even connected to this life that you created?